Okay, so this podcast has been a long time coming because I've really been sitting here thinking about what do I really want to talk about. And when I talk about something, I like to speak with purpose. So I've been seeing these TikToks about like living your delusion, and I've been seeing conversations like online about like living your delusion and just manifesting what you truly want and doing it, even if it seems unrealistic. So it made me think back to like when is the first time I ever lived in my delusion, whether I knew it or not. And the first time I didn't know I was doing it, but I was doing it, was when I took a trip with my best friend to Portland, Oregon in 2021. And we went just to like go have fun or whatever. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna start getting into like Instagram and maybe dabble in trying to give model a little bit, right? And at the time I was a little chubby, a little shorter than I am now. And just for reference, I'm like 6'3" now. But I think back then I was like 5'10". So I was like, I don't really have the model height, but fuck it, I'm still gonna do it. And I didn't really have the model body at the time, but I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyways because I'm gonna live my delusion. But I didn't know I was living in my delusion when I was doing that. But going back to Portland, that trip literally changed my life. And I didn't even know it at the time because I was there. And I think on the second day of the trip, I had posted something on Instagram, like, pictures of me. And it was a really good picture. I might put it on Instagram one day. But
Ooh,
I did that picture.
how the
And
fuck we come over
I
here?
got a DM from this Portland-based magazine, and they were asking me if I wanted to be a part of the magazine or be on the cover. And at the time, I was like, "This is a scam, like delusional. I'm not a model. I just take Instagram pictures." And that's pretty much it. So I didn't end up following through with it because I was just being so realistic with like, what is the likelihood of that actually happening to me and that idea being presented to me and it not being a scam, right? So I think today I would have handled that situation differently because today I'd be like, fuck it, I'm in there. Like, what time are we shooting and when can I get into it, right? But at that time, I wasn't really seeing it like that. I was being very realistic. And I think at the time, my goals were to, like, finish undergrad, go to law school, and practice law. The way my whole perception of like life has changed since
Ooh,
then because of this very situation is
how
different.
the fuck we
So
come over
leaving that
here?
Portland trip, I went back home to Florida, and it was still mid pandemic, and I get a DM from another guy. His name is Samuel. He was a recruiter for this modeling agency that I heard about before. And at the time, I was like, yeah, they don't want me. But I got another DM from him, and he was just like, yeah, like, we want you. We want to set up a call, and we want to talk about it. So I think we set up a call for like a few days later. I got on the phone call with Samuel, and we were sitting there. We were talking to like for like an hour, and he was talking about like modeling tips, and he was talking about how he got into modeling, and then why he decided to get into helping getting other people into modeling. And what like really drew me to the agency was that it was black owned and black run. So that was like the most important thing to me at the time. And honestly, the most important thing I learned about that, besides living your delusion, was read your fucking contracts. Read those modeling contracts before you sign them. Because I have another story for another day about that same agency. But going back to my conversation with Samuel, he really put me on to like little modeling things and being black in the modeling industry and how I should like handle it or whatever, right? And really good tips. And before I knew it, I was meeting with we'll call him Mr. Turner. I was meeting with Mr. Turner, which was like the head of the modeling agency, and I was fully signed and I was ready to go on my digitals and like, building my modeling portfolio from the ground all the way the fuck up, you know? And when I did that shit, like it ended up being really cool, a really cool experience, but something I would have never thought I would be doing. Something that seems so like far fetched that I'm like, wait, I'm really like assigned model and doing digitals and doing building my modeling portfolio when 2 weeks ago I was just taking Instagram pictures. So you never know when it's your time. You never know who's watching. You never know who's looking. But at that time, I wasn't like looking through life with like delusional lenses or whatever, right? So I would have never thought that that's something that could happen to me. So I remember a week after that meetings with them, I he set me up with a meeting with this guy that was the head of another agency, and he wanted me to interview with him or meet with him so I could be like possibly join his agency, and that would be my mother agency. And so this meeting was in Miami, and I lived in West Palm Beach at the time. So I took the train. It was like in the middle of the day, and I went over. But it was also spring break time, right? So Miami is like packed on spring break, and he was also staying in South Beach for whatever reason, which is like where everybody goes for spring break in Miami. And I got there off the train on time, but I got my Uber from the train to where he was at, and I ended up having to wait like an hour in traffic because it was so bad because South Beach was packed out for spring break. So I get to the meeting a little bit late, and then after I get to that meeting, like we're just there and we're talking, and he's like interested in signing me, and it ended up moving forward and ended up going well. But that's something I would have never thought that would be a situation that I would be a part of, like being signed to an agency and also being signed to my mother agency all within like 2 weeks of each other. So it was like a really crazy ass like experience for me at the time. And that situation that happened in Portland and in Miami really fucking inspired me to want to come up with like a cute little guide of like living in your delusion. So like the first step for me, and this is a guide for me by me, and I might post it on social media, I don't know, but it's not something you have to follow or something you have to listen to. But for me, the first step of my guide to living in my delusion was stepping back from people and friends and reassessing who I surround myself with. And what I mean by stepping back is stepping back, viewing your life as if you weren't living it, right? And seeing, what is this person do? What do they serve something for me in my life? And you're probably asking, like, what does this have to do with living in my delusion? And by living in my delusion, this was thinking about, who do I give access to in my life? And when I tell them my dreams or my deepest, most secret thing that I want to accomplish in life that I wouldn't tell everybody, how do they react to that? So like a good example is me going around saying, I want to be a model. I am a model. And let's say my family member is looking at me and is like, okay, yeah, you're a model and I'm an astronaut, like being sarcastic, right? That's someone that you shouldn't even be associating with, because if they don't believe that you can be a model, or they don't believe that you're going to be an actor, or they don't believe that you're going to be the first Black doctor in your family, then you don't need to be around them, because they don't see it for you. They don't see the delusion. They don't see the goals, and they don't see the possible growth. So you don't really need to surround yourself with bitches like that. And that's just what that is. And whether that's blood or not, they gotta go. And I know it's harder to do it when it's blood, but you gotta do it. I've had to do it to a few people, family members, and it hurts at first, but you'll get the fuck over it. So that's important to like going back to that, that's important to who you give access to. And then once you find out who you need to give access to, that's how you figure out who you need to surround yourself with. So just take notes of that. And we'll recap this at the end. But going to step 2 is spending time with yourself and becoming your favorite person. So what this means is to spend time by yourself. To spend time by yourself, go into hermit mode. Me and my friend, she has told me and taught me a lot about like going into hermit mode and doing the shadow work and doing the work within yourself before you can step out and try to be around other people, right? And also while you're doing this, spend time with yourself, as in not just in the house, laid up in the bed, getting high. It means going outside. It means going to the park. It means getting one with nature. Grounding if that's your thing, or just going thrifting or doing things that you love to do that makes you happy by yourself. So when you're doing them with people or not, you can still have a good time. And becoming your favorite person includes doing things that you love to do. So for me, doing things that I love to do and making it great quality time is going thrifting. It's going shopping in general. It's putting outfits together. It's now walking my dog. Things like that actually make me happy. So think about those things for you and what that means to you, okay? So then going on to the next step is stop caring and stop giving a fuck. And by I mean stop giving a fuck, I mean for real stop giving a fuck. That means stop giving a fuck what your friends say, stop giving a fuck what your best friends from elementary school had to say about you, stop giving a fuck with them, the ones on Instagram gotta say, the ones on Twitter gotta say, your family members on Facebook, your auntie, your uncle, your mama, fuck all of them respectfully, and do what you gotta do. Whether it seems delusional, far-fetched, unlikely, unrealistic, do that shit and fuck what they gotta say, because when you make it, remember that you made it. They didn't make it for you. You made it for yourself. So step into it and keep it pushing. That's basically what it means by stop caring and stop giving it a fuck. So moving on to step number 4, do what makes your soul happy. And I can't answer that question for you here. You got to answer that for yourself. What makes your soul happy? It's like the real question that you got to ask yourself. And for me, what makes my soul happy is being creative, being free, money, and whatever else my things are. But yes, it can be simple as having money, being creative, being able to go do this, being able to go walk my dog, being able to have a nice place to live, being able to have things that I've always wanted and work for them. You girls gotta work. And going on to the next step, it is manifesting. By what I mean manifesting, don't just say that shit in your head and it's gonna appear while you're laying up in bed. Ooh, that kind of rhymed, a rapper. But what I mean by manifesting is sit there and really manifest what you want. Write it down, spell it out, type it out, make a vision board, make a mood board, whether it's digital or like paper, because I've done both. And do what you gotta do and do what you view as manifesting. And when you're manifesting, put in the work after. You can't just write those things down, make that vision board, make that mood board, or whatever it is, and then just leave it. You got to actually accomplish it. You got to actually put in the work to do that. So if you want to become a model and you're manifesting, I want to become a model, and you write that down in your journal, okay, that's good. That's the first step. But the next step is to then go start building your modeling portfolio, start networking, start meeting people, start going places where you're going to meet other creatives, other models, or whatever you know your dream is. And that's just my example. And just do what you got to do. So when you get to that point, you can look back and be like, yeah, I wrote that down in my journal, but bitch, I worked my ass off to get to where I'm at now. And the sixth and final step is, bitch, you better work. Work, work, work. Going into manifestation, work. Just like, I know what Kim Kardashian said in that meme, you know, you girls don't know how to work. And that's really, it is the problem. She wasn't the person to say it, obviously, but it is true. Once you have this idea, you have to work for it. You have to work for what you want. And that's going to take time, money, perseverance, and whatever. But you got to do that shit because you want to do it. You got to do it because you love it, or you got to do it because you believe in it. And sometimes, all the time actually, that does take delusion. And that's the purpose of this episode, living in your delusion. So just to really get back into this, you have to live in delusion. Because if you don't, you will never get to where you want to be. Because playing it safe ain't gonna get you nowhere. Like, and playing it safe, playing it cute, it's not going to work. So when we come back from this quick ass break, we're gonna step into like the daily things of what you need to do rather than like the long term. Because what I just went over was like long term shit. But let's talk about the daily when we get back. And now we're back from that break. So before, you guys got like the long term goals of like how to step into living your delusion, but now we're gonna talk about being delusional and how that helps being delusional in your daily life. So what I mean by being delusional in your daily life is, for example, I'm getting into modeling and I walk into a casting room, right? I'm walking in that room like, I am the person for this job, or I am the model that's going to book this campaign or this gig. And not even like in an arrogant, egotistical way, but just walk in and be like, this is mine. And you're going to ask how. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to be early. I'm going to be on time, if not early. And I'm going to show up in best dress. I'm going to show up giving the best look. And I'm going to give whatever they need and more for that casting call. You know? So whether it's like editorial, for example, and I walk in that bitch and I'm giving them the best editorial poses that I can give and more, being on my A game will then show people that I have it. But also, more importantly, show yourself that with being a little delusional, you can make it there and you can do what you got to do. And that's also really important. And also the how and the why. From the how and the why, you have to be able to like really step into doing it consistently. Because being delusional is a full-time job, bitch, okay? So what I mean in doing that is be delusional every day. Not just when you're feeling confident and not just when you're feeling secure. Be delusional when you're feeling insecure daily. Be delusional when your hair ain't cut, your hair is not done right, your eyebrows ain't done, your outfit is not 100%. Be delusional even then. Be delusional as you're walking to the bus stop, imagining you driving in your Tesla. Be delusional when you're walking into your minimum wage job, but treat it like you're walking into your career job. Treat it like you're already at the place that you want to be, and not treat it as I'm working at McDonald's right now, and that's all I'll ever be because I'm working at McDonald's. Because if you live in that mindset, you're just never going to be nowhere because you're just going to be thinking about working at McDonald's, but not thinking about, damn, I really wouldn't be working for Apple, but I'm working at McDonald's. Like, you see what I mean on that? So really just live in that delusional aspect every single day of your life, and it will happen over time with work, of course. Get to work. So the last segment of this podcast that I'll be doing at the end of each podcast is growth and like how you grew from it, because growth control in the name, so I gotta be a little corny, but how I grew into living in my delusion was that experience that I told you guys about earlier in Portland and Miami, and how a year and a half later, how that's still impacting my life, and how that has made me live in my delusion daily and within the long term. And that's what helped me develop my personal guide to living in delusion. And I think something important is to develop your own personal guide into living your delusion, and not just based off of what others are saying, but take from what you need and take what you don't, and develop your own personal guide on how to live in your delusion and really excel on that shit. Do what you got to do, because it's extremely important. With that being said, y'all will hear from me every single week on this podcast about different topics, and have different guests and different creatives come through and talk about their process and what they're doing. So if you want to be a part of that, hit us up on our website, growth-control.com. Fill out the box on the bottom corner of the page and contact us and be a part of it. And also, you can apply to join the team too. We have a lot of things coming. So I'll see you guys next week on the Growth Plus podcast.